On today's episode of the Who Is This podcast, brought to you by Double R Communications and Sierra Pacific Mortgage, we welcome the Nolan brothers. They are the owners of Legacy Restoration, and they teach us a lot about insurance and doing an insurance claim when you're in a situation where you need restoration services like flood and fire damage and things of that sort. They tell us about other jobs they've had and some funny stories on the job. So it's a lot of fun. We had a great time, and we're glad that they took the time out of their busy days and busy schedules to come chat with us. Enjoy.
So, all right, well, cool, guys. Welcome to the Who Is This podcast.
I'm super excited about this one today.
I don't know if you guys have watched very many episodes, but basically all this is an opportunity for people to kind of tell their story, tell about what they do, what they're passionate about, and also, informational purposes too. Depending on what people do, there's a lot of, we throw in little tidbits about mortgages every now and then and things like that. So, but yeah, so welcome. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we'll just see where this goes.
Okay. I'm Andrew Nolan. I am the younger brother of Ethan.
He looks older. I'm Ethan.
I'm not gonna lie. I was just gonna say I've always thought you were the older brher. That's the first thing. I was like,
You're the
what?
first person to say that.
No, absolutely, everybody
Andrew.
says that.
Yeah.
You know what? I've just accepted it at this point. I just look older. It's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah. So we're close though. Just right at 2 years apart. We were right next to each other in school. I was old in my grade. Andrew was young in his, and yeah, we've always been close. In fact, I think it was in high school where I feel like we just became really good friends, and then from there it's just continued on, and now we're doing business together.
Yeah. Do you guys have another brother?
Many.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. You just said you have. You just said
six
right,
of us.
but well, because I see you guys. I don't go to Seven or to Strive anymore, but
Yeah,
I
what the
used to
heck,
see
dude?
there was 3 of you there, right?
Yeah.
That you were usually working out together.
Yeah, that was
how many live here in the Gila Valley?
just 3 right now. So
Yeah.
me, Andrew, and then Jonathan.
Okay.
Jonathan's the other one. He
Yeah.
works at Bowman. He's a land surveyor.
Okay. Gotcha. Awesome. Anyways, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he's the jacked one.
He's
huge.
It makes us all look bad.
Yeah, he's massive.
and where you guys are originally from, Wilcox, right? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. We were from a farming family. My dad did apples over there until the apples didn't do that well, and then he moved from there to construction, and he ran a business doing construction, building homes.
Yeah, and because we were at the tail end of the family, while we were in high school, that's when our dad did construction. So all of our high school years, that's where we were. We were on houses, helping,
Mm-hmm.
That's so more of our background is in construction versus farming. But so that's kind of where we grew up kind of doing that kind of stuff. And now, we both tried different things, after we were married and stuff. And so, but now we both ran into construction again. Mostly it's, we tried to we found something that we both could be in together. And now that's what we've enjoyed, kind of building stuff together now. So
I know you guys. I've known you guys for a while, and I know your brother Guy. And you guys have all had like an entrepreneurial story. Is that the rest of your family? Is it kind of the same way? Business owners, things like that?
A guy is I would say, I don't even know if I'd call Andrew an entrepreneur. Guy is for sure a big time entrepreneur. And everyone else, yeah, it's just mostly, it'd be Guy and us that own our own businesses.
Yeah.
Jonathan does the land surveying. Seth is a nurse practitioner, and I actually was a nurse. I worked as a nurse with him up in Page for a while. And then Rooster, our youngest brother, he does finances. Yeah, so.
Care to explain that name you just said?
Oh, Rooster. His real name's Joshua. It was Joshua Roo for 2, and then it turned into Rooster. Anyway,
You must have known that wasn't his real name.
No, I had no
Because
idea.
that was a very.
Okay,
That's an awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if they're just like, what? That's just his name. Like, what do you mean?
Rooster.
Explain it.
Yeah, a family of boys, we end up all having nicknames for
Yeah.
each other. Some of them aren't as good as others. but
Roosters is
that
a
was
good one though.
That is a good
That one
nickname.
stuck. He
Yeah.
should use it more often. I tell him all the time. That should be
Yeah.
like his card thing. It's like, oh, I'm Rooster. But yeah, that's Rooster. He's the youngest brother. So
And Rooster kind of made famous with the new Maverick movie, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Top
Yeah,
Gun
yeah.
movie.
yeah, that's right. That's right. That is right. I had forgotten that.
That movie is so dang rewatchable, man. I love that movie.
It really is a good one.
It's good. But anyway, so yeah, so you were working as a nurse, and I can't.
Andrew's got a way more interesting story than I do.
Okay, well, I want
Andrew's
you guys
done-
to talk about legacy registration, how that kind of came to be.
I think we should
So-
talk about how we got there.
Yeah.
Like Andrew should do this part for sure because he's the one that I think because of Andrew and his position and how likable he is, like that's how this all came about. So for sure. Take it away.
Okay. So you're good. I've kind of tried to do my own thing for a long time. I tried the whole schooling route. It
Yeah,
just didn't work.
I tried to
for
convince
me.
him to do nursing. It didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it just
pan
didn't
out.
pan out the way I wanted it to, and honestly, I just enjoyed doing my own thing. I was a beekeeper for a long time. I was doing.
You're the second beekeeper we've had on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Lee Patterson's
Oh, that's
does
right.
a little bit of bee. Anyways, that's just funny. Little. Yeah. Anyways. go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I kind of fell into that thing, and I did that for a while. I was full time. I was removing bees at different people's houses, and
I still have my Nolan Hives T-shirt.
I try to
It's one
give
of my
out as
favorite
many
shirts.
as I could.
That's great. That's great.
And so I was doing that for a long time, and I realized that was something that I've either got to go all in to be a commercial beekeeper, or I got to do some other things to kind of supplement. Beekeeping is seasonal. It's not something that you're doing all year round typically.
I want to know how you got into beekeeping.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that's okay.
Yeah,
What started that? I mean, that's not a norm,
It's not normal.
Yeah.
That was kind of,
So it's kind of interesting. So like Ethan was saying, we were farmers. We were apple farmers.
Uh huh.
Certain crops, you need to have pollination.
Uh-huh.
And apples is one of them that bees are a huge pollinator for apples. And so even though I was really young, we did have bees on the farm. My dad raised bees and grandpa helped, all
Okay.
that kind of stuff. Not that I took a liking to that. It's not like I was in the bees at that point, but it was still there. Like
You were
there
around
was some
it.
knowledge.
Yeah. Okay.
mostly stay away.
Yeah.
That was the knowledge. we had.
Yeah, don't get close to the bees. But it was soon after I was married. We moved into this trailer, and underneath the trailer there was a beehive, and I think I went and I sprayed them. I killed them one time and ran away. Got rid of the bees, but they came back. And I had a buddy that did beekeeping up in Gilbert. And so I called him and I was like, dude, I've got these bees. What do you want them? Do you giving ideas? And he's like, let's get them. Let's take them out. And so he brought an extra suit down and we went over there and we took the bees out. We found the queen. We did the whole process. And then he was like, all right, these are yours now. Like, you have to take care of these bees. And I was kind of, it was like, yeah, it was exciting. Also, I didn't know what, if I was like, I guess I'll keep them here and probably never touch them again or whatever. But I bought a bee suit. I got all the stuff. And then I had this, in my head, I was like, well, I got all this stuff. I already did a removal. I could probably do it for other people. Like, he does this in the valley. I can use him as a reference. And anyway, long story short, that's what I did. And I did that full time, and I got pretty good at getting bees out of people's houses and extracting them, and did the whole honey process, and it was fun. It was enjoyable. It was fun to learn about the biology of bees. I could I could talk all day long about bees. We won't get into it because I will. I'm a nerd when it comes to it. It's just there's so much.
Do you still
cool
do that
stuff.
a little bit, like as a hobby or kind of on the side?
So there was a part of me that like I've always thought that I probably will, and then when I kind of stopped doing it, I stopped getting stung, and I realized how awesome it was not getting stung. Because when I was beekeeping, it was daily. Every day I was getting stung. I got where I was lazy and I'd only put on half a suit, so just my upper. And I just gave in, like, I'm just going to be the person that's going to get stung a lot. And I did. But as soon as I stopped getting stung every day, it was like, this is nice. I like this.
It's the things you don't appreciate, you know? I didn't wake up this morning thinking, I'm sure glad I didn't get any stung by any bees yesterday. Yeah.
And so I do still have bees, but I haven't even gone and seen them. I feel bad even saying that. But it's just been so nice. And then I got super busy in this other stuff. And I've gotten rid of all of my bee equipment, sold off or given away.
Do bees feel neglected? Like, do you think they'll resent you? Like when you go and, if you leave your dog at home for a long time or for not see him, do you think if you go and visit your bees, you think they'll sting you extra or something?
Every time I did go out there, they've seemed pretty mad no matter how long ago.
Because you haven't been visiting them, man. No, that's funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
So I was doing that. And again, I was kind of in this, I wanted to do some more stuff. I had a couple little other things that I was doing. And anyway, I had a friend, Craig Bloomfield. I don't know if you guys know who Craig is.
Oh, yeah.
And I was talking to him about, we had just bought a property, and I had a shop, and I had like some land, a little bit of land with it, and I was like, I want to do something. I feel like I've got an opportunity because I've got some space here, and I want to do something. And he was like, well, if you want to do so, I've got a part of my business that I don't want anymore. It's the restoration side. I had no idea what that was.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I got a division in my construction company right now that I don't want to. I'd like to get rid of it, and I'll give you a smoking deal. And I was like, well, I have no idea what that is. I just want to do something. And so I started talking to him more, and long story short, I was like, let's do it. Let's put something together. I'll buy this stuff from you, and I'll do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited about it, and so I remember telling Ethan about it, and he was talking about how much nursing is not the funnest thing, that he would love to do, other things. And I basically begged, like, dude, come down and do this with me. Let's just try this. You can still nurse on the side. Like, if all else fails, like, you'll be fine. I'll figure out something, whatever. Just come do this with me. And
how long ago was this?
This was
about 4 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I moved down.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so whenever we bought the business, there was some jobs that were going. Again, I already had construction background, so it was easy for me to kind of dive in. It's not like I was brand new. And so we just dove in and started going after it. And then we've learned so much.
Did you change the name, or has it always been like when you bought it, when you took it over from Craig, was it Legacy Restoration then, or was it something else and you changed the name?
It was just Velocity Restoration for him. So we just changed it.
Yeah.
It was just Legacy. I honestly don't even remember exactly how we came up. I think I had the name, and Ethan was like, sure, whatever, that's fine. Now, I mean, we should have probably a better story of how we named it Legacy. I think it is cool that it happened to be that brothers, or we started a company, and we feel like we've really came from a family of legacy. We've got some really good roots, and we're very prideful of, and so
Man, that should be the story.
That should be.
Oh, yeah, we come from a good legacy.
Sounds like it is. I mean, yeah.
And so, anyway, we've learned so much in this industry. Again, when we started into this, we had no idea. I think we had a cousin who did this work, and we had maybe called him a couple times, but there was just so many unknown things.
Yeah.
And that's what we now feel with like customers that we have now. There's so much unknown in restoration, in insurance claims on your home or business, that just is super confusing. And we went through that whole confusion, and we feel like we got to where now we have a really good understanding of it, and how we feel like we can really help and benefit people.
Yeah.
So before you get into that, can you talk about like what does your like day to day look like? I guess for you guys it's probably different every day, but like what keeps here in this valley, like what keeps you guys busy?
Can I ask something before we change that?
Yeah, sure.
I want to know your side when, you have your brother. You have your brother who's, I'm starting this restoration. You obviously spend a lot of time becoming a nurse, probably a lot of money. What? Tell me, how are you feeling when he's like, hey, quit doing this and let's start doing this?
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
I think there's some details I would switch a little bit about what Andrew just shared on the whole fact of like him convincing me to come down. I definitely don't feel it was like that. I had been doing, sorry, I don't want to cough.
Nope, you're good.
I had been doing nursing for 7 years. I graduated. I was up in Page at the time in the ER and ICU. And went through COVID. Gosh, I'm sure you guys talk about COVID every time with everybody.
It's not really a huge, I mean, it's usually mentioned, but it's not.
No,
I
think for a lot of people, COVID was like a big eye opener in a lot of different ways.
I think a lot of people's lives shifted one way or another. Yeah, I would agree with that. 100%. Yeah.
And so that kind of, for me, I was up there in Page, right up actually at the Navajo Reservation. Those guys it hit the Navajo Reservation hard, very hard.
Really?
And they've got a lot of comorbidities, and just because of their poor health to start with, it was just not a good base. And then they had this new virus, and it just, anyway, there was a lot of families that had multiple members just pass, which was hard to watch and hard to be a part of. But so during that time, I ended up picking up a travel contract because, I mean, the travel contract for nursing was it was insane money. And so I went up to Nevada. I was there for 7 weeks. It wasn't very long. And that was a transition for me where I just realized I was working 6 nights a week. And that's where I realized I was like, I am not happy doing this. I love nursing. It's a great occupation, and I could do it as a job, but it really was like, for me, I didn't really enjoy the atmosphere where I was at. I don't know how many nurses you guys know. Your wife's a nurse. That's right.
I know at least one.
So especially in ERs and ICUs, nurses, they have like a type A personality. I hope I'm not gonna get in trouble for this. But it's really like where I was at, and again, my experience is that it's this way in a lot of hospitals. But you'd show up to work and you're like, all right, who's gonna be in a grumpy mood today? It's like the same anyway, it wasn't a good work atmosphere. Now I'm sure there are hospitals where they do have great work atmospheres, but
I've never heard of one.
It's hard. It really is hard being a nurse, and it wears on those guys. And so, people are grumpy. And so I kind of coming from that field, I'm just like, I don't really like the people I'm with. They don't bring me up. And I had, at this time, was at a pretty low point in my life. It was actually doing the whole travel contract, working 6 nights a week. I wasn't with my family. I was living in like a 24-foot trailer, making insane money, but man, it was a rough time. That was the point where I was like, I've got to switch things up. We've got to do something different. And so that was whenever I started reaching out to Andrew and talking to him more about what we could potentially be doing. Another little side gig Andrew didn't mention, he had a pressure washing business.
Oh, okay.
And Andrew came up one time to Page and helped power wash off a drive-through for a restaurant. And I was like, okay, maybe we could do this. It was miserable work. I hated it. I was in the middle of the night. We had to, it was awful. But I was in my head as I'm like, hey, I'm leaving nursing. This is what I'm going to do. I was like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be power washers, and we're going to make things work, and we'll grow. We'll try and do things. And you know what? I'll don a bee suit. Like, let's go. I'll put on a bee suit. I was prepared. I was ready. That's how ready I was. And then Andrew mentioned, hey, we've got this other opportunity here.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and that's really where I got introduced to restoration there, which I didn't know was a thing before.
So it wasn't him convincing you. It was you were ready to make a change. You know,
Yeah,
it wasn't him. Yeah. So
it was for sure. This needed to happen.
Yeah.
And kind of I had an experience actually just the other day. I was talking to I'm going to forget his name now. He's in our ward. He was playing the drums at one of my kids' concerts. You guys are probably redhead.
Matt Hancock.
Nick DeRusha.
Yeah.
Nick DeRusha. Yeah. He was playing the drums.
Shout out Matt Hancock. You're one of the only redheads I know.
So Nick, what was funny is I ran into him like after the fact because I saw him playing drums. I was like, bro, hide your light under a bushel. Like, I didn't know you played the drums. And,
Oh, he is incredible.
Well, yeah. And
he
well,
played for the Army band.
well, I didn't know any of this. And so
Their whole
Wait,
family's
that
their
might be his brother Nate.
their
I
whole
know.
family's super musical and
All
very
played
that's what
very
he said.
talented. Yeah.
Instrument.
yeah, that's what he said. And so that was a thing that he was like, yeah, it's my thing. Like, that's my thing. I like playing the drums. I really enjoy it. And then he was like, well, what's your thing? And I was like, I don't know. He was like, don't you dare say being a dad. And I was like, well, I mean, that's an important part of my life, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's my thing. He's like, you don't have a thing? And I was like, I couldn't think of anything. And then I later, like after the fact, I talked to my wife. I was like, hey, what would you say my thing is? And she was like, your brothers. Like, instantly she knew. And I was like, oh yeah, that is my thing. You know,
That's
like
cool.
hanging out with brothers, going to the gym, being in business with a brother. Like, that's the thing, you know? And so it's like, it's way more fulfilling now, even though I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm dealing with moldy drywall, you know, I'd rather be doing that with a brother than being miserable with people that I don't like all that much.
Yeah. So are you
know?
done nursing completely? Like
No, I'm working over in Wilcox. I work 2 shifts a month.
Okay.
Sometimes I miss a few months here and there. It's hard to let it go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which makes sense.
It would be silly for me to just be like, I mean, maybe one day, but I don't know. Right now, no.
But you have to work so many shifts to keep your license, right? Isn't there some sort of thing like that?
I'm sure there's some minimal there, and I'm sure I'm right on that cusp of like, you don't work enough, but
Well, I think it's like 2 shifts every 6 months or something like.
oh,
it's
okay,
like-
I'm beating that, thank
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah, but yeah, it's been a good transition, you know, and working with a sibling, and really all of the brothers I enjoy. In fact, I talked to Guy the other day because I shared with him the Nick DeRusha experience that I had. I was like, yeah, that's it. Which I haven't even told Nick. That's my thing, Nick. If you ever listen,
Nick's a huge fan, I'm sure.
he's listening right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like we're talking to ourselves, honestly. But anyways.
Hey, we've said this before. Even if we are talking to ourselves, we'd keep doing it.
I know.
Well,
It's so much fun.
That's
Yeah.
a good time.
So, okay. That's cool. Now ask you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your question. I just wanted to get his view of
Yes.
it
No,
before.
I'm glad you did.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Andrew wasn't being truthful.
No, I was. Well, both of you guys mentioned like restoration. You kind of touched on it for a second there, but what is like your day to day? What are you guys doing? What is your business? Because I used to install AC units for a living, and
Who's that with?
John's Heating and Cooling.
You really?
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did that for 4 years.
There was a time in my life where I was doing that as well.
One of my favorite jobs, honestly.
Climbing in hot, sweaty attics.
Well,
Yeah,
the
sounds
reason
fun.
why is because every single day it felt like I learned something new, and those things that I learned, I apply to my everyday life, being a homeowner.
Dude.
And
Yes.
anyway, yeah. So there's so many skills that I learned doing that I know I've saved myself so much money just because I have the know-how now that it's been very valuable.
Dude, speaking to that, So I worked for Guy for actually all while I was going through nursing school. Summers I'd be working with Guy.
He has an HVAC company. I don't know if we mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was so many times, like when you're like stuck in the back of an attic and you're like, hey, it takes me 15 minutes to get out of this thing. I don't have this right tool. I'm going to figure something out here.
Yeah.
It's that mentality of like, figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, I am not taking the trip back to go get the tool I need. I'm looking around. I'm looking for scraps of metal, like whatever it was. Like, there's something 100% HVAC. You have to figure some crap out sometimes.
And speaking of that, I think everybody should have to crawl to the
Hey.
back
Oh
of
my
a freaking
gosh.
attic.
So-
that
I wish I could make
has
all of our
this much
guys.
crawl space.
One of my first jobs, I worked for a contractor in high school, and my first day on the job, I was still maybe a sophomore. Like, I had barely driving, First day, he had me up in the attic spraying insulation, which was absolute miserable. Middle of the summer, you have that suit on, like mask, sweating, and I remember he was gone. The owner, I'm not going to say who it was, the owner of the company was gone. And he was probably semi-joking when this happened. But if you know him and if you know working, it might not have been. Anyways, I've been up in the attic spraying. I will after. I was up there for 30 minutes or so, came down just full of sweat, like, had to clean that off. I was sitting there in the kitchen drinking water, and he walks in, and this is seriously my first day. He walks in, he's like, I'm not paying you to drink water. And I was like, okay. And so he had to have been kidding, but was he? Anyways, yeah, attics in Arizona.
I would love
Don't
to
recommend.
send every single one of our employees through an attic and be like, listen, you got to hook up this ductwork and you got to make it work. And here's the opening. You got to go all the way to the other end. Figure it out. Like, I would love to do that.
It would be a valuable life lesson.
No
for
kidding.
you.
It really would. And then the guys today were like, oh, the attic space is too small. I'm like, I could fit in there. Like, you could do it too. Come on, man. Buck up. Let's go. Yeah. It's totally,
But anyway, so restoration. Tell us what does that all involve, and what are you guys normally doing? Because there's probably stuff that you see more of than there's probably a big array of stuff that you do.
Yeah.
But,
I feel like restoration work is more of a thing in a bigger city. Well, probably because of more people. How we were raised, if something broke or if something, a classic example, if there was a flood in the house, it's like, all right, bust out the towels. Let's get the mops going. Let's get everything cleaned up and good. And hopefully everything will be dry soon, and that's how we were raised. But basically, what restoration work involves would be anything that you would call your insurance for on your home. Fire, flood, fire and flood. Probably good. Hail damage. Storm damage.
Falls.
Yeah. Things like that. So things of like, hey, I need a whole lot of capital to get my house back up to a livable condition. That's where your insurance comes in. And that's where a restoration company also comes in. So, because of that, we help in that process, kind of like how Andrew mentioned before. There is definitely a process to go through whenever you are filing a claim on your home. And so having somebody who's done it before and who is familiar with the paperwork, is familiar with adjusters in the area, that's kind of the benefit of calling a restoration company. So Andrew could probably talk about the process a little bit of like when something does happen, but like what that process looks like.
Okay.
Because that'd probably be a little bit helpful here in this part. Because if something does happen and you do call your insurance, it's like,
so yeah, where's the first call? The insurance company or you guys? Like,
yeah, well, we could, in a perfect world, and what we've been trying to kind of get out there to people is we give free estimates. We'll come out for free and come take a look at whatever. And the idea is that if we can be there on site first, we can already see, okay, if this is something that we should make a claim on, or if this is something we should not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many situations where you shouldn't make a claim. What a claim does, it's there to protect you, but there's consequences of making a claim. You make a claim on your home, your rates will go up for a certain amount of time, for a certain percentage. It's not something crazy, but at the same time, if because a typical day, a dishwasher broke and it leaked, or a water heater broke and leaked, and we come in and there's water on the floor, or it's throughout the house. Sometimes we come in and it's barely, just got a little bit of water somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we come in and say, don't make a claim. We will work with you. Let's get you taken care of. We'll make this pretty manageable.
Let's avoid bringing insurance into it because it's
Yeah.
not a huge deal. You don't
Well-
want to pay for those consequences of that claim. Okay.
And you've also got deductibles, and that insurance is so confusing. There's so many, when you get your paperwork of insurance, it's 1,000 pages long, and you're
Mhm.
like, cool, I'll never read this.
Yeah. How much is this a month? Okay.
Exactly. We look at the
Yeah.
price and we're like,
Yeah.
I just need it to be a certain price.
Yeah.
But everybody's policy is different. And that's where we come in. We really analyze everything down to the policy of what it says. Because some people, without knowing it, will have a $5,000 to $10,000 deductible. And their damage to their home could be $10,000 worth of repairs that need to happen. But their deductible is that. So that would not be worth making a claim on.
Mm-hmm.
What, so by the numbers, like, what would be worth? Because if your deductible is $10,000 and it's $11,000 worth of damage, would you do a claim?
No, and I say 10,000, like that's not very typical.
Right.
And I'll say like typically we see people that have a deductible between $250 to $1,000.
Yeah.
That's typical. We are now starting to see a lot more in the $2,500 range,
Yeah.
and that's just because insurance is changing. It's always changing. I mean, even crazy stuff in the nation will change insurance across the nation. California fires, that's going to change a lot.
It's
insurance companies
affecting
lost
me.
billions.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure
it's-
you guys have a role in that.
Yeah. Well, and then even we have a cabin up in Alpine that I'm not. Yeah. The deductible that they're telling me I have on that now is insane. Like
Yeah.
because of fires. Like, ugh, I don't like insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, but you do kind of have to like play that game a little bit, like for me, like you almost want your deductible to be at a decent level, and it's really just that threshold that insurance is trying to like set for their
Mhm.
customers of like, hey, this is the threshold. Your threshold. My recommendation is a $2,500 deductible. Yeah, it sucks if you had to fork that out right now, but that's probably a good thing,
Right.
for some customers. Now, there are some folks that like, that's just not going to work. Especially any sort of like people on retirement, fixed incomes and stuff, hitting people with that kind of a deductible, and they've got lots of damage in their home. Like okay, like let's help you with your insurance process. Let's kind of get you going here. So it is kind of a little bit of a game. You kind of have to consider what your own finances are. Like if people can handle a $2,500 deductible, handle it,
Mhm.
do it. If you can't, okay, let's see what we can do as far as the insurance goes. And too, a lot of times we help people on their deductibles. I don't feel like Andrew 100% answered your question when you asked like who should we call first. He kind of did, because we can come out and see whether or not it is a claimable thing that happens. But I think 100% like getting a restoration company out there. It doesn't have to be us. We're happy for the call, but it doesn't have to be us, because restoration companies, they also, like, our intent is also to mitigate the damage or to stop the damage from continuing, right? Because if you do have a flood, you've got water that's starting to wick up walls, base plates continuing to get soaked through to the center. Wood is extremely hard to dry out. You might have some microbial growth if that stays wet for too long. So 100%, call a restoration company, because they have equipment, they have things that are going to stop the damage, and so that's for sure.
I think people are really cynical of insurance companies right now, and maybe you can answer this, but if something happened at my home and it was pretty minor damage, but I called my insurance company and said, hey, this is happening, are they going to take a note of that and be like, oh, this guy's got an issue with his home, when we renew this guy's policy, we're going to remember that he had this issue, and that might be something we consider when we can
have a hard time getting insurance after that.
do their premium. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, would that be another reason that it would be important to call the restoration company first?
Yeah, 100%. I would say that. And the reality of that is you're dealing with like hometown people. You know, like we also have homes in the area. We have insurance, you know, just like you. And so, yeah, we're gonna, because we know this world, this is what puts food on our tables. Yeah, we're gonna give you a good recommendation there, and not punish you for calling either. You know, so there is some. I know insurance is cracking down. You know, and restoration and insurance claims are. It seems like it's getting more and more popular. In fact, probably after this conversation, you guys, next time you're in the valley, you're gonna be like, "There's restoration trucks everywhere,"
Yeah.
and there really are. Like I didn't ever notice them before we got into restoration, but now that we are, yeah, I can't not see them now.
Right.
But yeah, insurance, restoration work is getting more, like people are becoming more aware. And so people are calling more often for claims and stuff. I mean, I don't think mom and dad have ever made a claim. Like I remember mold growing in our showers and stuff. You know, we had a bad shower leak. We're like, it looks like mold growing there. Anyway, yeah, we just fixed it, you know, and I think most people do, and insurance companies love those customers, right? Because they've been paying for 30, 50 years,
Right.
and they don't ever file claims, you know, like, oh, they're just a consistent customer. These are the kind of people we want, you know. They don't like it when we file claims.
But on the other hand, in my experience, when somebody does file a claim, we had Michael Romney on here, and he kind of touched on like you have a credit score, but you also have an insurance score.
Yeah.
And so somebody that files claims, they're
liability.
And insurance companies share all that information too. Like that's like a database where if you go, you can't just go to a different insurance company and expect that all to go away.
So, you know, somebody that is filing those claims, they're able to say, oh, you know, you're a liability. I can charge you more like a higher premium. So
I would definitely think that if you can avoid using your insurance, you should. Obviously, there's going to be cases where it's just too much money and you have to use your insurance.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I would say calling the restoration company is probably definitely I agree with you 100%. That's the first call you want to make.
Yeah, and it really becomes at that point, like some of the first questions we ask homeowners is like, okay, what's your deductible? You know, where are you guys at financial wise?
How often do people say, I have no idea?
Oh, that happens very often. I mean, I recently signed up for my insurance, so I know my deductible now. But
I couldn't tell you.
I was going to say, I have no idea either.
Yeah.
Because I recently did mine, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think this is what I told her. So it's pretty easy information to find out real quick. I mean, you just start researching and going back through things, you can find it. But yeah, it's that like immediately, like when something starts happening and we start assessing. I mean, our first question is like, how far is the damage, right? We start going through with moisture meters and figuring out like if it's a flood, obviously we've got to figure out where everything is wet and what all has been affected by it. And so, yeah, that's always the question when we show up. It's like, all right, who's your insurance carrier? That's also good. That's also a different topic. Good topic, different topic. And then what's your deductible? Let's look at things. Let's try and figure out, okay, this is basically what you're dealing with. Yeah, you should call your insurance. Or, you know what? Let's get you some pricing.
When you guys are, because you guys deal with emergencies, if there's something that happens in the middle of the night and you guys show up, can you start working before you get the green light from the insurance company, or how does that work?
That's a good question. Usually if somebody's calling us in the middle of the night, it's because something bad has happened, right? If you just saw that like, oh, I've got, you know, I just noticed something a little small, most people will wait till the morning or whatever. We have gotten calls in the middle of the night, and my basement is flooded. I've got standing water everywhere. And those are usually staples of like, you're going to have to file a claim.
Right.
You're going to want to. Let's get started.
Yeah.
First things first is let's extract the water. Let's stop the damage, like Ethan was saying. that's the biggest thing that when we get a call is let's stop damage and then let's assess at that point. Let's see where things are at.
Insurance companies like that too. I mean, you stop the damage from progressing. Okay, that's less than insurance has to pay for.
Right.
Yeah. And so we say this all of like, you do have, when somebody does have insurance, if it's something that needs to happen, yes, we want you to file a claim because you're paying for this. You're paying for this insurance. You will have coverage. And that's where we come in of, basically this is what Legacy does. We'll come in and we'll do all of our testing, all of our documentation ready for insurance. And we will then make sure that per your policy that everything is going to be covered and that they're going to pay for all that stuff. And nine claims out of 10, I'm kind of the office guy. I'm the guy that deals with insurance. I'm the guy that writes up all the estimates and talks with adjusters. And
I just sit here and look pretty.
He's good at it too. And most of the time, insurance will leave out certain things. They won't put in their estimate that they're going to pay for certain things. And as contractors, I see all that stuff and I say, hey, this has to be covered. You're missing this in your line in your estimate. And that's what that
Are they
does.
doing that strategically? Do you think?
I wouldn't.
Or
No,
okay.
I don't think
See,
so.
that's the cynical side of me.
Yeah,
like
it is.
yeah.
Well, potentially,
Right.
But I mean, you can't. Andrew and I have learned you can't go in like this freaking adjuster. Like it. Oftentimes we do. There's one in particular I'm thinking of, where it's like, oh great, like, we got
Right.
this adjuster.
I was gonna ask that
like,
question
it's gonna
too.
be a fight,
Yeah.
you know. But in reality,
That sounds like us with appraisers, by the way.
oh, good. It doesn't. It's not just in the insurance world. It really, like these people, adjusters. They're not contractors.
Is that a bad thing to say?
No, we don't. No. You're good.
Edit that at the end.
All of your appraisers listen to this.
We love
Yeah.
No, it really comes down to that. These people are not that knowledgeable. I mean, they know their programs really well.
Oh.
They know the adjusting very well, but the building, like, now.
Listen, let me interject really quick.
Yeah.
Right out of college, I got a job with the Hartford Insurance as a claims representative. I didn't know anything. And like, seriously. And I'm like,
You want me to do what?
they seriously just throw you into it. And then you get this call of an emergency or, whatever, and I'm on the phone with these people that are just freaking out. And I'm just like, let me look up your policy. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So yeah, you are on that note. They don't know what they're talking about. The vast majority of them.
I would have loved to have you as one of our adjusters. Like that would be perfect. Like I'd be like, listen, let me show you the ropes, bro. Like this is how it's gonna go.
Yeah, because I did not know what I was doing, and I didn't work there for very long.
That's funny. Yeah, that's it. Really, these people are not contractors, right? And so you can't. I mean, oftentimes, right when something happens, most customers. In fact, I wonder if we could talk about a particular. Anyway, I won't even mention any names. But like, we know this one customer we're working with really well, and instantly out the gates, he's like, "They're not going to cover this," because like his adjuster kept asking, "Well, how did this happen? How did you find out?" They're trying to weed out like the fraudulent stuff, right? And so immediately in those customers' mind, it starts to like put in their heads like, what? They're going to try and wiggle out of this one? Like how could they even consider this? Like, of course this isn't fraudulent, and you have, so like the adjusters have to like, their job is pretty difficult. Like I wouldn't want to be an adjuster because they deal with stuff that's more fraudulent, and they have to kind of figure out, make sure the story's straight. They'll want to talk to not only the landowner, but also maybe a tenant that was living there and like really anyway. So there's a lot on their end that they have to worry about. So, and for me with dealing with this customer that was like kind of freaking out, it's like, this is part of the process. This is what they do. Again, I don't want their job. They're trying to figure things out, and figure out, okay, what is insurance really responsible for here, And so, again, it's difficult. It's kind of every claim is a little like you just got to make sure all your ducks are in a row, and that's the benefit of having a restoration company.
And insurance companies too, they've got these adjusters. They have a rule book. They have things that they have to follow by, like per the standards of State Farm or whatever, for example. they have to stay in these guidelines. We don't pay for certain things, or we do pay for other things. And the adjusters they have their jobs because they follow those rules. And so that's why they have to ask questions. They have to figure out what's going on. They'll typically come out to the job and they'll see what's going on there. A lot of times when somebody does make a claim and an adjuster is going to come out there, we want to be there because we want to be with the adjuster and walk through the house or whatever and say, hey, this is what we found. This is what we're seeing. And what we have found is the more honest and open we can be with an adjuster, and we can say to them, like, hey, we want to be on the same page. We want this customer taken care of just as much as you do. And if we could both be on that same page, a claim can go really easy. We can get stuff covered. We can get everything back together in a timely manner. And that's where probably a lot of our customers will complain about timing. And that all comes on the adjuster or the insurance company of, well, it has to go through approval process. And that on some claims, it is extremely fast. And sometimes it is, painfully slow. Mm-hmm. And that's on our end. That's not a whole lot we can do other than provide them with all the info and then just being the squeaky wheel and calling these people constantly, which we do. That's why my full-time job is I'm in the office. I'm calling adjusters. I'm getting stuff where we can get stuff approved, get in there and get the work done and get these people back in their homes. Legacy, our biggest thing is we just want to take care of people. We want people to feel like they are taken care of. And in the world of restoration, usually you're calling us because a bad thing happened in your home. And we want to come in and as the professionals certified in all of these areas to make sure that you're safe, that your family is safe, that all mold or asbestos is taken out of the house, and that you're not breathing that in, your kids aren't breathing that in, and that your house is put back together the way that it's supposed to be, and making sure that your insurance pays for it. If we're making a claim, my thing is let's make sure that they pay for what they're supposed to. And yeah, we kind of talked about how insurance companies do try to wiggle out, maybe, again, probably not because they really want to wiggle out of certain things, but because they miss things. And that's where we come in and making sure people are taken care of. And so that's what in reality, like if we could talk to everybody in this valley, it would be, we just want people taken care of. We want to make sure that you and your family have everything that you need and that you are put all the way back together.
That's awesome.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah. I like it.
I have a funny story.
Okay.
I got a call recently from an old boss. This is like almost
Your HVAC boss?
terrible tangent. No, not my HVAC boss. Different boss.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to say his name. Everybody knows him. But he calls me and he's like, Davis, why did my house payment go up $300 or something? It was something crazy. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I know he's on a 30-year fixed, so it's not his interest rate going up or anything like that.
Right.
So the only thing that can change on your payment is your taxes or your insurance. And I told him, I was like, I bet your insurance went up or your taxes. And it's like, pull out your mortgage statement. Let's look at it. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, he pulls it out. His insurance premium quadrupled. So he went from $100 a month to $400 a month.
Jeez.
And I was like, what happened, dude? And I was like, did you file a claim or something? He's like, well, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, something. He's like, it was my 40th birthday. I got really, really drunk, and I was blackout drunk. I went in the shower and passed out in the shower, fell asleep on the drain.
You plugged it.
Entire house flooded. And
how long was he out?
he said he was out for 4 hours.
Oh my god.
4 hours.
And
I was thinking, you're lucky to be alive.
Seriously?
You could have drowned.
Yeah, good thing he wasn't in a bathtub.
Yeah, if it was in a bathtub,
Yeah.
you'd have drowned.
Oh my gosh.
And so his insurance went
flooded.
from like I said, $100 a month to $400 a month.
Man.
And I'm
That
like,
seems like a crazy adjustment though.
I know.
So
But I think he was very truthful with his insurance company when he told them what happened, and they were probably like, "Oh, this guy's a
liability.
problem."
We gotta get our money from him.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something. So is that going to follow in this case? Is that going to follow him forever, or after a certain amount of time, do they not have to take that claim into consideration? So, like, or is insurance just always going to be expensive for him now? Do you know?
Yeah, we're probably, because we're not the actual insurance, guys, the guys that put the policies together. We're probably not the best people to ask, but when people do ask this, we say what we have heard, or at least what we've been told from the actual insurance people, is that usually follows you for about 5 years.
Okay.
Every insurance company is a little bit different, but that's typically what you see. After 5 years, then it's kind of wiped off there.
Gotcha.
And not only that, though, even if somebody makes a claim and it's denied, that happens too. We run into that where something happened in their house, they make a claim, and there's lots of reasons why it wouldn't be covered, but we've run into it where even on water, they had a leak that wasn't covered. But because they made a claim, and that's why we're like, call us first.
Yeah.
We will first do this.
Even though
they made
denied.
a claim, their policy or their insurance goes up, and it's a knock on their insurance.
That's what I was saying before. Is like that's another reason to call you, because you'll probably also have some sort of wisdom as to whether or not this is something you can claim.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think just like complete transparency too. Like when we are dealing with anything, like that's the best thing, especially with us, because we're here to, obviously this is our business, this is what we do. Typically we like when people file claims because we know that we're going to get paid,
Yeah.
And so in general, we want people to file claims, but there are situations where it's either not best to file a claim, or we know that things are not going to get covered. And so, they do ping you. Like if you do file a claim that doesn't just go away, so it's, you do have to be a little cautious. But what's kind of nice is we can act as that buffer for people of just like, hey, we can come in and just look. Like, let's just look and see what you got going. Obviously, full transparency with us. We're not going to bill you for just coming to look, and we can give you our 100% full assessment of like, hey, yeah, this is claimable. Your story sounds good, or no, let's get you taken care of, right? Let's get you back on your feet here, but obviously at a discounted rate. We can't. And that we usually try and do that with customers. What we do is we show them like, hey, if this were an insurance claim, this is how much we charge per day for a piece of equipment, to be on site to dry out your house. This is our rate with you guys, and it's severely decreased and stuff. And that's the intent of that, is just to make sure people are taken care of, and that, they feel like, oh, okay, like we're not, insurance isn't covering this, but we're still being taken care of, and it's not as bad as it could be. So
that's awesome. So I was gonna ask you, so is it just you two guys? Do you have employees? How big is your team?
So there's a total of 7 of us here in the Gila Valley, and so we have the availability to go, because we are 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We always usually have somebody ready to go anywhere that they need to. And so anytime, usually if somebody calls in, we could usually get to you same day. If not, very first thing the next day, we could be out there. And so we try to make sure that we're available and making sure, again, people are taken care of.
Have you ever had anyone call in the middle of the night for an emergency, and then you got there and you're like, it's going to wait until tomorrow? Like, have you ever had anything like that before?
Little mold spot.
Yeah.
No, actually we haven't. I haven't. No, we haven't had that yet. I mean, there's been like not in the middle of the night. Middle of the night, usually
it's
people know like, hey, I need help right now.
The only reason I ask that is because we meet a lot of people with what we do, and there's a lot of unique and interesting people out there. So I'm sure that you've met some of those, too. They're all great people. But so I imagine there's someone out there that this has to be taken care of right now. You got to call them. And then anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Someone's getting on Google and they're like, oh, they are open 24 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. It says they're open. Why not call? Yeah.
Yeah. No, we haven't had any calls like that.
That's good.
It's usually, if someone calls in the middle of the night, it's like, all right, we're dragging our happy butts out of bed. Let's go.
Have you had any notable or crazy clients or calls that come to mind that
crazy guy passed out in the shower, like that type of story? Yeah.
You would be surprised what insurance will cover. Like pass out, like it seems like, hey, that person made some poor life decisions and they caused their own damage, right? And so you would think the insurance would be like, but no, they cover things like that.
Yeah.
We've taken care of a few things. I don't know how specific we can get. When Strive flooded, we were there.
I was gonna ask, did you guys do that one?
Yeah, we did that one. They flooded, and that one was pretty nuts. That was a lot of water.
What happened? Did someone broke a sprinkler head? That's what I.
Yeah, it was the fire suppression system.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sauna it busted.
And that's right. It was in the sauna. Yeah, because they have it. I mean, it is right
I wonder
there.
if there's like
I've
some
hit
sort
my
of,
head on it.
Yeah,
sure,
it's right
I'm
there.
sure somebody just went a little too hard on the
Yeah.
the roof's a little too short. Yeah, I wonder if there's like. I also wondered too, like, oh, that busted. Well, it's 180 degrees in there. Like, I wonder if
Did it
there's
just
like
melt or yeah.
Well, I wonder if there's like a high temp one that
Probably.
that
It doesn't
would be
surprise me at all
installed
that
there.
somebody hit that. It's because that roof is so low in the sauna.
Yeah.
Like if someone was in there stretching or someone, they could have just.
they whack it.
But of course, it had to be in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually working a shift that night when we got the call. And so I got the call. Andrew you didn't pick up the phone.
I
you were out of town. Oh yeah. I was in Wilcox nursing, middle of the night. I was working a night shift and Andrew was out of town. And so we had one other employee. Did we only had one? Was it just Yui?
I think we did only at that point. We only had one.
Yeah, it was
other
just
guy.
Yui, which Ulysses is his name. He worked in Wilcox, and so
Lived in Wilcox.
yeah, he lives in Wilcox, and so I called him up. I'm like, "Wake up, man! Let's go. You got to go by yourself because I'm working and Andrew's out of town." So, and he did. He did a good job. So
It's good to have good employees.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Big time.
yeah. We enjoyed our time with Ulysses. He doesn't work with us anymore. Still love him though.
Do you guys do like home remodels and stuff like that, or are you just strictly restoration?
Because restoration is different than renovation. I always get that. That's a good question. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is different, but essentially they're the same in the end.
Okay.
Like it's essentially after a flood, after a mold abatement, after asbestos, like you're basically with a gutted house,
Right.
depending on the extent of the damage. And so, okay, now we're doing renovations and now we're doing a remodel. And so, yeah, it turns into remodel work.
Does it have to start with an accident, or if someone do you guys just do remodels? Like, hey, we want to, we want to redo our bathroom. Like, do you guys do that?
Right now, we've got three.
Okay.
Jobs? Three
When
remodel
people
jobs?
ask that, I usually say that 80% of what we do is restoration, and the other 20% is remodels.
Okay.
People will call us, and so yeah, we do that all the time. We'll show up, and somebody says, "Yeah, I want to redo something." We are a contractor, so yeah, we're more than happy. To
why
look at
wouldn't
stuff,
you?
And it's basically the same without the emergency part.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
without the insurance part.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we do remodels as well. It's not. We have to and maybe we probably should be a little bit better with customers on this aspect of like, hey, listen, we are an emergency service company. Like, yes, we'll do your remodel, but sometimes we have to split. And honestly, being open with those customers is part of just being taken care of. You know, it's just like, hey, this is what's going on for us. This is also what we do. And so sometimes I can't have a guy here, working. So we got to have guys taking care of.
Strive just flooded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's part of the process that, that we deal with. And I think that customers, and honestly, I think customers know that's what we do. You know, when we
And
take
it's
on
usually,
remodels.
you know, usually we could still, like, emergencies only take, you know, depending on it, but it's typically a day.
Yeah.
And then we're back at our
Scheduling
normal.
it.
Yeah,
And, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, the mitigation or the first part of any sort of insurance job, flood, fire, usually doesn't take very. It's not a. We're not committing for months.
Mhm.
You know, on doing that demo.
Yeah.
I have another question.
I
Bring it
like
on.
the suspense of bringing the mic over. Like, ooh, Davis is gonna say something.
So I've had a bunch of friends or acquaintances that have filed claims, and it seems to me like a lot of them have been within the first year of owning their new home. Have you guys noticed that, or has that seemed to be the case at all? Has there been a lot of that? Because I can think of like 4 top of my head. It's been within the first year of owning their
Are
home.
they in this valley?
And it's not like one builder
So
or
you know
anything. It's
you know what's interesting about that is, like, I'll have a tenant in one of my rental properties for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and not have any issues, and then someone else moves in, and then something breaks.
yeah.
Like, and I don't think it's them really doing anything crazier, but that's just interesting. So new home, new tenant. Maybe it's just the way they're living is different. So,
Well,
anyways, I shouldn't have interrupted your answer.
to
But
couple that story, I have one. There was a customer we just took care of, brand new build. They were literally, I think they were moving in the next day. Like, they were spreading out the area rugs, and while they were doing that, they noticed that the floor was like squishy. They were like, what is going on here? And like, they started looking around, and like everywhere, the floor, it had a bounce to it.
it was a new build.
A new build.
Oh, with a subfloor?
No. So it was a floating floor on concrete.
Oh, yeah.
So the click together vinyl, they were like, it's moving. Like, what is going on? And turns out their shower valve had busted and was leaking. And so it happens. And, you know, can you blame contractors for that? I don't know. It seems like, yeah, if it's brand new, it shouldn't fail. But parts come in bad too. You know, there's a lot of things in the realm of possibilities to happen, you know, to any home, any fixture, any one thing that, you know, provides running water that like could fail, you know, at any point, you know. Typically you don't see them failing right when they first get installed, but I mean, manufacturing sometimes is bad too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We have seen it as well.
Yeah. All right, I got one more. They're all dumb questions. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's great.
Have you ever gone to a job where you're like, there's some foul play here, like there's probably some insurance fraud? Because I worked with a guy who was on the fire department, and he said they went to a fire, and there was a story with this family, and he's like, there's no way that they did not set this fire themselves, but impossible to prove, you know. So that's just one thing that comes to mind.
Well, they do have like fire inspectors. So that's the first, like with a fire, not only are you dealing with your insurance, but they also call a fire inspector. And so there's one in Southern Arizona. It's just that one. I think we've seen him on a couple jobs.
Yeah.
They do have, so fire is the one that people are like, oh, you know, insurance will immediately send a fire inspector out. And their job is basically to like, okay, get the story, and they go through and they take their pictures. I don't know the science behind it. I'm sure there's something to it that they could see, oh, this is fraudulent, or oh, this isn't. It's hard to tell though.
So more to answer that question, when we come into a customer's house, we are on your side.
Yeah.
So I don't ask the questions. It's not my decision if your claim is going to be denied or accepted.
Yeah. This part's not a commercial. We want a funny story. Yeah.
I'll say this. We have gotten into where we're starting to tear things out and we'll have customers say like, hey, if you break that, it's fine. Kind of a thing of like, it's going to be covered anyway. We didn't like it.
Yeah.
And we are pretty honest with people of like, hey, we do our best to make your insurance happy and put you back together.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're not going to be the guys that are going to intentionally cause any fraud stuff. And we're not going to accuse anybody either. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe me and Ethan will drive back from a job and be like, that was interesting, I guess. But again, anything is possible. Like that in the realm of possibility. Right. Yeah, big time.
I just wonder what the story he gave was, because I'm sure he told me the truth, but I'm wondering, like,
well, maybe. I mean,
what did he tell the restoration company?
Ethan said, you'll be surprised. It's an accident. It was an accident. That's what insurance is there for.
Yeah, there was like, speaking of weird accidents, we had a customer, and it was actually a repeat customer. That
there's your first sign. just kidding.
Well, their first claim, straight. Yeah, everything got covered. Everything was right. The second time they had a flood, their story was a little. I was like, what happened? Basically, they had invited a friend over. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh, yeah. They had a friend over that was like staying at their house because she was having a bad time or something. Anyway, she needed a place to crash. But apparently this friend sleepwalks in the middle of the night.
Oh, whoa.
And so the story went that the friend got up in the middle of the night, plugged the tub, and also plugged the overflow. Or was there an overflow? I don't think there was, actually. No, there wasn't an overflow. Because I remember thinking, well, the overflow would have caught it, No, there wasn't an overflow.
I was going to say, if she plugged the overflow, that's just malicious.
Yeah, exactly, right? Anyway, sleepwalking, plugged the tub and turned it on, and then went back to bed. That was the story. But, I remember talking we knew that adjuster pretty well. So what's kind of nice is when you do know that adjuster, you can call him up and be like, yo, this is a story. Like, what do you think? And no, they'll be covered. It was very surprising to hear that. They didn't end up going through with the claim because she was like, oh, my rates are going to go up again. I don't want to do that. Like, can you guys just cut me a deal? And so we did and stuff. But yeah, I was very like, well, that's an interesting story. Let's tell your adjuster. Let's see what they say.
As I was going to ask something earlier and I forgot, but you just reminded me. As far as insurance companies, do you have like certain that you like, okay, cool, we got these guys, or other companies you're like, oh, not again, because and is it I'm hoping what your answer is, I don't know if is that the local companies are great, but then you get like your big, like, nationwide, the ones that everybody thinks of, those are usually the ones that aren't as great, because that's what we find as far as like rates go, but or as far as rates go. But yeah,
I really think, and this is from just all the experience we've had, it really comes down to the adjuster themselves. Okay. And that's like even on a personal level. Yeah. Like if that adjuster's having a bad day, like, oh crap, and so with that, and honestly, I think this is what's been helpful for Andrew and I feel like we're pretty personable. Like we like talking to people. So my first call with an adjuster, I'm already like trying to develop that rapport, chit-chatting them up, like
schmoozing them.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. That's what it turns into, is like, hey, like I got to get to know you. Yeah. I'm going to be working with you. I want you to make sure my stuff goes through. So yeah, like let's get to know you.
That's an important part of business,
dude.
That's something that can't be really taught or learned in school. Like you've got to be able to build relationships like that to make your life easier, make their life easier, make your customers' lives easier. Yeah, 100%. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and like just recent example, we had, I'm sure this adjuster doesn't listen, so I can talk. Well, I won't mention any names. But we had a claim. This adjuster, I called the phone number and it popped up as a contact. So I knew I'd called this person before. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, how's it going? You know, what's been going on? You know, and I start chit chatting. I was like, we've had a job together. Like, I have your phone number saved. What was it? You know, and then like, oh yeah, I've been down there in Safford. Oh, maybe it was this one. Oh yeah, maybe. And so like, yeah, it's like I try and capitalize. Like if I, especially if something like that, like, oh, we've had a job before. Okay, let's try and jog their memory a little bit. Let's try and develop that rapport again. Cause obviously I haven't talked to this person for a year and a half, you know, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, it really, as far as claims go, it honestly comes down to the adjuster 100%.
Yeah. And
sometimes adjusters just suck and they don't like you for some reason and they're grumpy. It is less frequent that happens, that we run into that. Like, oh great, this adjuster. In fact, one of the guys that we worked with pretty often, he's no longer working as an adjuster in this area, but at first he had a real problem actually with our first employee who did all of what Andrew's doing now. They didn't get along. And because of that, we had claims that just got extended and were long and nothing was just moving, you know? And so we've learned, as Andrew's kind of taken over that role of like, hey, I'm the main communicator with these adjusters, things have moved a lot quicker and smoother. And honestly, it comes down to literally that first interaction, you know, and like, hey, let's get to know this person. Let's chit chat them up. Let's joke around a little bit. Okay, this is what's going on. And open and being 100% transparent. Like, hey, this is what I'm running into. In fact, the most frequent flood job that we have, the most recent flood job that we have, they more than likely have asbestos underneath the floating floor that we took out. And the water was underneath the asbestos tiles. And so, okay, we got to suit up. We got to make sure we take our precautions. And that's what I told the adjuster. I was like, hey, listen, I don't know if this is asbestos yet. Samples are being taken and sent off to confirm that it's asbestos, but we're taking the precautions just in case. I'm not going to surprise you with like this. Like, I'm letting you know as soon as I know. That's helpful for them. You know, it really comes down to just being normal, being a good person, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
That's an important part of your business too, because when people are shopping for restoration or renovation companies, they're not thinking, are they good with talking are they good at having this relationship or this, you know, these conversations with, you know, so that's an important thing for people to understand is you've got to like the people that you're working with, because if they're, you know, people are always like, we got to find the cheapest people. It's always about cost, you know, but
yeah.
And I have no idea what your guys' fees are or anything, but there's so much more value than just cost, because if you go with some cheap guy that you don't even get along with because he's a jerk, but he's cheap, you're gonna have a terrible experience because he's not getting along with the insurance company. He's not getting along with anyone, you know, and it's just gonna make it so much more miserable for everyone. So that's awesome that you hit on that, because I think that's important for your customers to understand how important that side of the business is.
Yeah, and honestly, it really helps that there's two of us. 100%. You know, it's I'm more in the field, and so I'll have those conversations with adjusters, but then right after I get off the phone with the adjuster, I call Andrew like, hey, I just talked to this adjuster. This is what we talked about. Next time you talk to them, because honestly, a lot of people get confused. They're like, I can't remember if I was talking to Ethan or Andrew, but this is what they said last time. And it's like, oh yeah, no, Andrew did mention that to me. Yeah, we're going to be doing this. And so it like our communication has to be good, but like, yeah, maintaining those relationships, being good with those people. Because at the end of the day, like, your adjuster is maybe a jerk, but they're a person too. You know, they've got a family that they're going home to. They've got a house that they're insuring as well, you know. So it's like, okay, I can get on board. Like, this is a human that I'm dealing with on the other side of the phone here. Okay, I can make that connection. You know, it's just another person. You know, and that's what's helped immensely.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is, like, when we started this, everybody thinks like, oh, insurance, it's this horrible thing and it's going to be a fight, right? And because of that, when we first started, that's how we were. We're like, we're gonna fight. You got to be mean, right? You got to be mean to get what you want. And we learned very quickly that is not the route that we want to make. And you know, part of it is like, that's what most people end up going through. If you go through a claim, you're going to feel some frustration because things aren't going the way that you want it to go. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Floods suck.
And we honestly, like, we pride ourselves in the fact that, like, we can get along with anybody. We can get along with any adjuster. We can come to conclusions, and we can help people out. As soon as we lose our cool, or then it all goes out the window. And I seriously feel like we've got that dialed in. Like, we understand the game enough, and we understand, like, how to progress something, jobs along faster, and how to just get along with people. And it's crazy how simple that is.
Right.
Yeah, and that really is like just a testament to our folks, how we were raised. It's really just like, oh, this is what mom and dad taught us. It's like, just be good to people. And again, I'm not saying this to like toot our horns or anything. My folks are like super well known in our community because they just talk to people, and because they're they're always going to different people's funerals. Oh, hey, how you doing? I go, we have actually now 2 jobs going in Wilcox right now. And so I'll go around. I had experience the other day going down to Wilcox Rock and Sand. I walk in there, and everyone can tell they're talking to a Nolan. I walk in there, hey, how's it going? And they're like, are your parents Curtis and Julie? Yeah, I'm number 5 in the setup. It's a pretty frequent conversation. And instantly it's like, well, your mom, like, we just had this funeral and your mom was there and she brought me cookies. It wasn't nothing big for mom, but like, because of that small act, it's like that carries and it goes through, and it's just really like, just being normal to these people. Like, these people are normal, like, they've got their things, and just being that kind, courteous really helps in business. It really helps in all facets of life, in church callings, and in dealing with grumpy adjusters, or dealing with a customer that literally just lost everything. It's just like, hey, like, this sucks. I'm sorry. Let's see what we can do. And it's that, like, there's a business coach that Andrew and I have both listened to a lot, that really just talked about, like, hey, when it comes down, the bottom line, as long as you're taking care of people, like, you're going to keep getting paid. Like, doesn't matter. Like, don't focus on that end goal. Don't focus on the money. Don't focus on that paycheck. Focus on taking care of, solving a problem, taking care of people, because things just pan out, and that's what people pay for. And you'll be able to not only take care of them, but then you'll be able to take care of your family, because you're getting paid. You're putting food on the table.
Yeah.
So that's really like best business advice. Just take care of somebody.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good note to end it on.
Yeah, it's a good,
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, appreciate you guys coming on. This has been great and very informative.
What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah.
I don't like our phone system that we have right now.
Don't call us.
No, do call us, but man, it's a Google phone.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a little finicky.
Yeah.
We do have the business number. Oftentimes, as soon as we get on site with a customer, we're giving out cell phone numbers and stuff. Because that is the best way to get a hold of us. But yeah, we've got our business listed there on Google. If you search any sort of thing like flood damage near me, mold abatement, mold contractor, anything of that sense, like our name will pop up.
Just hop on Google and
Facebook.
We do have a Facebook somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if we've.
I don't think I've logged into it. We kind of hit that hard. Being Ethan are not the greatest at social media stuff.
Yeah.
We should be.
keep it simple though. I mean, as long as you're doing your stuff on Google, I mean, that's what most people use anyway. So
yeah,
it's
still,
helpful.
like, I have a flood. The first place I'm going is not Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I feel like what we do is not all that interesting to unless maybe you're going through it. And
right.
So we'll post. We did that. I mean, we do have Facebook, and I think we did post videos and stuff. And I think it's just kind of like, I don't need you until I need you, and that's the thing
too. Like, people may not want their destroyed homes on social media. might be a little invasive, you know.
Yeah,
We do have some pictures on our Google
Yeah.
profile though of some destroyed homes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, did we? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I love the you guys complete each other.
Yeah.
We really do.
Like Gucci.